Good morning, everyone. You are on the lifeboat. This is Captain Calhoun speaking. How are you today? The lighting in here is different every morning. I tell you what, it's very strange. Very strange. It's good to see you guys. It's been quite a interesting morning for me so far. I woke up pretty much on time, but my brain told me that I was late. So I spent the first about 30 minutes of my morning thinking that I was way behind when I was absolutely not. So very strange to feel very overwhelmed and rushed and then realize that you're totally fine and switch gears back into what it should be. But here I am, Ellis, aka Chester's mom. Hello, hello. Kristen, Melinda, Beta, Megan, Jeffrey, Cindy, G, Debbie, Blair, Caradish. Hello, guys. Welcome aboard. Good to see you. Other restrained. It's been a while, man. Good to see you. Hope you're doing all right. Yeah, it's Friday, people. The turkey day is over, but that doesn't mean that the week is, right? Not quite yet. I'd like to talk about mental health and addiction today together. And I guess that's kind of what we talk about every day, but I want to talk about them specifically and kind of how they intertwine. And I think I'll start by telling some stories. Pardon me, I'm still working on my coffee. Sharona, good to see you. The Arabian Bard. Robin. Hello, hello. But yeah, when I started drinking and drugging, I imagine I was 14 or 15 in Southern California, and I immediately started using it to escape from my problems, right? Not deal with my sad home life. It immediately started taking an unhealthy form, right? There was never a day that I healthily used substances, right? Not alcohol, not nicotine, not anything. And that's an interesting fact. I didn't really realize that until I was thinking about this today. But from the moment that I started using, it was being used to escape from what was going on in my life. At that time in my life, I believe I was living with my mom and her new partner, and my dad was in prison, I imagine, or just not with us, right? He just wasn't with us. That's what mattered to me. And I wasn't able to see him. And we talked and sent letters, and I visited now and again, but it was far and few between, right? So I was in this position where my family had been kind of ripped apart, at least to my young eyes, right? And my mom didn't seem very concerned about it. Like, good for her, she's sober, she's getting her stuff together, but everything, all the decisions that were being made, all the changes that were happening in my life were so uncomfortable, and I was not a fan, right? And in order to escape from dealing with those things, I definitely turned to drugs and alcohol. Fast forward, I'm probably only if I started when I was 14 or 15, I left that house when I was 17. So I've only did that for a couple years tops, right? And in that time, it was pretty much alcohol, weed, cigarettes, maybe some pills here and there, but really, really, it was just alcohol was the abuse. Alcohol was the heavy abuse at the time. But fast forward 2.5 years, I spiraled out pretty quick, right? I'm not gonna say that I got what I deserved, but it definitely came to a head, and my life changed forever, right? Would not finish high school at that house with my mom. Halfway through junior year, I would get sent off to rehab, and I think my mom thought I was on hard drugs. I'm not entirely sure what was going through her head because all I was doing was drinking and smoking. And when I say that in that manner, all I was doing, it sounds like it's not a big deal, right? Well, it must have been a big deal, right? I don't think that she would have sent me to rehab and then shipped me off to live with another family member if I was a manageable young man. So that being said, it was at the time a shock. It was definitely a shock. I didn't In my head I was like, I'm only smoking pot and drinking a little. Why would you send me to rehab, right? But there was a lot of other things going on at the house that I'm sure had to do with my mental health coupled with the addiction, right? Because before all of this happened, before my family got ripped apart, before I started drinking and drugging, before I even, would hit double digits, right? Before I would even become 10 years old, I think that there was mental health problems, right? In fact, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like 6. Um, I might be getting that number slightly wrong. I might have been younger. Nicola E, what's going on? Sneaking up, I see you. Tampa B man, it's been a while. It's so good to see you. Wow, you are so beautiful. I've never seen your face before, Tampa. If that, I don't imagine you have someone else's face on your thing, but wow, you are stunningly gorgeous. I just thought I couldn't help but have those words come out of my mouth, so I had to finish that sentence. But that's how I feel about that. Moving on. Gamer Jackie, good to see you. Hello, hello. I definitely put myself into blushing moments often. You guys notice that? Anyways, Millie, hello, hello. Good to see you. Hope work's all right. Lurking and working. Gamer Jackie, whine a little bit more. Tina Marie, Carla Norris, Karma Chameleon. Let's go. Alrighty. I was talking about the mental health issues preceding the addiction in my particular case. I don't think that this is how it always works. I think that addiction and mental health are not mutually exclusive. And what that means is they don't have to exist alone, right? They can exist together, whateut each other, whatever, in whatever they exist by themselves regardless of the other, right? But you can have both. And I think in a lot of cases, maybe the mental health problems come first, right? Maybe the addiction brings on the mental health problems. I think that this can present itself in many, many different ways. I think that think everyone's got a unique story, right? In my particular case, the mental health stuff definitely preceded the addiction. And I might have been an addict, right? They say that our brains work differently than other people's, right? I wasn't hooked up to no addiction finding machine when I was a kid, right? But maybe I was an addict before the mental health. Who knows? Maybe they both happened simultaneously at my birth. I don't know, right? But we can identify certain instances. We can identify when things came to a head. We can identify when things escalated, right? We can identify when problems started to arise, right? So there is a little bit of research that can be done without hooking yourself up to some crazy machine that, who has, my dad talks about this all the time. Who's got this machine? Is this like high science? Is this something that I need to pay a fortune to like, I mean, I don't need to be hooked up to the machine. I know that I'm an addict, right? But I bet you if they have the technology to tell how your brain's working, they probably have the technology to tell like what would be more beneficial. Like they probably have some solutions too, right? I would think so. I want some solutions. Tampa B says, I'm so proud of your creativity. Being part of your recovery, so inspiring to me. I'm gonna get back to that. Thank you. Absolutely. And I'm sure you're doing just fine, Tampa. I'm sure you're doing just fine. But I love to inspire. If I do inspire you, don't let me talk you out of it. Go ahead and get light that fire, Go have some fun. Do something that lights your fire. Other restraint says I have a very high metachlorian count, and maybe this is why I made it out. That maybe this is why I'm doing so well now. My metachlorians eventually had to prevail, right? They've never seen this many. They've never seen the amount of metachlorians that others restrained has. Kristen Melinda says there are genetic tests to help see what types of psychiatric medications are more likely to benefit a person, but even that's not definitive. The human brain is still far beyond our complete understanding. We own these human brains, right? We all have one, but it's such a complicated machine. We still don't really fully understand what's going on in there. In fact, I would wager to say we've only scratched the surface. The stuff that we're learning now about addiction definitely seems to be game changing, right? The culture, the general consensus among people that I talk to seems to be becoming more educated, right? Addiction's a disease. This isn't something that I get argued with all the time anymore about. I think that we're headed in the right direction, and I'm blessed and stoked to be a part of that. And I don't think for a second that I'm making a huge impact, right? I'm sure that there are many, many people. I think that every single one of us is making an impact, right? We're all doing our part. And that's what matters. I think that's what's going to drive our society into a place where this isn't such a big deal anymore. And maybe big deal is the wrong way to say that. Maybe I should say, every one of us doing our part is going to drive society to a place where we understand addiction properly, right? And we handle it properly, right? And there's not, people smoking meth at the bus stop because they don't have a home and they don't have any help with their mental problems. Um, that's the world I dream of. I dream of a world where mental health and substance abuse um, are treated and cared for, right? Not shunned and exploited. Meep has a very funny comment. Can't they pump the serotonin back into your brain that the opiates depleted? Wouldn't that be cool? We could just do a little gas siphon, right? Maybe I could borrow some of your serotonin, and maybe my dad wants to donate some to me because he never had drug issues, or that would be way, way cool. Like literally the easiest solution ever, right? I I wonder what complications in the reward system of our brain makes this impossible, right? Because what happens is, and part of what I want to talk about today is we deplete, right? We not only do we change the way that that system works in our brain, our endorphins, by engaging in addictions over long periods of time, but we damage it as well. Like not only are we changing how it works, but it's not working as well as it once did, right? Especially like some drugs, all drugs are not created equal. If methamphetamine was your thing, the reward system of your brain is suffering, guaranteed. And if your serotonin is a glass of milk, and then like when you drink the glass, right, when you deplete the store of milk in the glass, that's your endorphins getting released, right? That's your happiness happening. Well, meth just drinks the whole glass immediately, and it even kind of goes in the negative. It puts you at, if you have 100% endorphins, when you're on meth, you're on 110% endorphins, right? It puts you somewhere that you couldn't get without, which is, I think it's the only drug in its class that, like, I think it's the only drug that does that. It'll put you at 110. So you'll never feel that happy, right? And I mean, when you say it that way, there's a lot of drugs that you'll never feel that way, right? Like that fit into that category. But as far as the endorphins in your brain, methamphetamine is extremely, especially damaging to this system. So all drugs are not created equal. All mental health issues are not created equal, and I would even be bold enough to say that all of our unique issues and struggles are unique. Right? None of them are created equal either. MDMA is a serotonin dump, and the chemical structure of this of this substance of this chemical is very, very similar. It's like one molecule away from meth. I'm not a, what's it called, a chemist, right? I might be off a molecule or two, but it's very, very, very close. It's almost the same thing. Almost the same thing. Feisty Irish, good morning, fam. Good to see you. Robin says addiction, mental health, and hormones are crazy hard to navigate in life. I'm glad you brought up the hormones because I feel exactly the same about that. Sometimes I'm feeling extra some type of way, and I don't realize it, but it's because of some kind of chemical stuff going on in me, right? My hormones. Maybe it's that time of year, right? Maybe I should be mating. That's what my body's telling me. Who knows? But it definitely makes my brain work so vastly differently than it normally does. My hair from under my hair is really poking out, bugging me, guys. There we go. Megan Jeffers says, I take anxiety meds when I need them, emphasis on the need, but I avoid it and use natural remedies when I can because anxiety meds turn me into a robot. Me and my grandmother had this conversation a lot. She also takes anxiety meds when she needs them, right? Which sometimes she does, but it's not her favorite thing. She tells me the same thing. It kind of turns her into a robot. Sometimes just straight knocks her out. But it's much better than having like a nervous breakdown, right? Or just getting spun up into that anxious coil, right? Just never stops spinning. Scotty, what's going on? Is it the sick society or is it a sickness within the individual or both? Good question. I do like this question, Scotty. I would have to say a mix of both. I think that our sick society, right, definitely works against us in a lot of ways and not all the time, right? Like I was saying earlier, I think we're making good progress, but I think largely our sick society definitely doesn't serve addicts or mentally ill, right? And it's interesting. I feel like when the words mentally ill carry like this stigma, like I'm a drooling buffoon or something, right? No, like mental illness is a regular thing that a lot of people have, and it can range anywhere from anxiety and depression to schizophrenia and psychosis, right? There's a wide range of mental illness, and a lot of people have it. You know what I mean? It's not so irregular. So maybe that stigma is just in my head, but if you get that relation association in your head when that word's spoken to. Let's work on shifting that, right? At least within ourselves, because it's not abnormal. It's regular, and a lot of people have it. And us understanding mental health and how to and substance abuse, right, and hormones, in how to like deal with them, how to work through, work with them, work around them, is going to be the way that we succeed moving forward. Thanks for speaking up, Scotty. That was good. I like that a lot. I also wanted to comment on, I only talked about the sick society. The sickness within the individual is not to be discounted, right? We're all sick in our own unique ways. I think the least sick person is still sick a little, right? And maybe it's a different kind of sickness. Maybe it's a sickness of the soul, right? Maybe they're just terminally unkind, which is a thing. But I think we're all sick in our own ways. I wonder what I was talking about before that. I feel like I left something on the table there. Kristen Melinda says, when I was a youngin', a friend told me ecstasy could be heroin based or speed based. I don't know if that's true though. When I first got into the ecstasy scene, the MDMA scene, we were taking pills. It was not Molly yet, Molly, right? Which is the powdered, technically it's supposed to be like powdered ecstasy, but it's a completely different drug. It can contain the same things, but it's just a part of the evolution of the drug game, I think. But anyways, when I first got in, we were doing pills. We called them ills. We would just take the P off, and they all had a base, right? And the base is another way to say what it was cut with. And I don't know if that's because heroin and cocaine and caffeine and whatever, they would be cut with all kinds of stuff, right? You would find some that were cut with mescaline, which is definitely more recreational than like a financial decision. I think that some of the cuts were because like heroin's probably cheaper than MDMA. It's probably easier to get into the country. This little thing right here, dude, it's killing me. I think it's probably easier to get into the country. I think that it's cheaper. I don't know anything about like mixing things together as far as like substances, so I don't know if there's like it's easier to use this than that or whatever. But I think it definitely cost effective to cut your MDMA with other drugs like heroin or meth. But I will say, you never really knew what you were getting. Like even if you were getting it from the same person all the time, even if it was the exact same pill, the same color, the same shape, the same stamp, it could be something completely different. We would get like, I forget what we called them, like a salad bag. We would buy a bag of random pills basically, and then like we would kind of like, it was like drawing straws, but we didn't know which one was the short straw. I guess that's how you draw straws. But we would all just kind of pick one, and then someone inevitably would get the short straw, and they would get like a speed based pill, or like two of us or whatever, right? And then the rest of the pills would range somewhere, doing whatever. This is something I know a fair bit about. I did a lot of ecstasy. I did a lot. I remember specifically one time, maybe I don't know if this is a glory story. I don't want it to sound that way, but I remember I did one of those that was cut with a hallucinogen. I think it was mescaline. I'm not certain. Who can be certain? We weren't using test kits, but I was rolling, right? I was feeling the ecstasy really hard. And then literally like in a split second, it was gone. And then I was just tripping. I was just hallucinating, like just really, really tripping. The roll just kind of fell off a cliff, and all that was left was the mescaline. And I was tripping for hours after that. It was not the most comfortable experience, transition. It was quite shocking, I have to say. Very different feelings, hallucinating and rolling. Dude, when I finally quit doing ecstasy, I felt so broken. When we talk about the reward center of the brain, I don't know if I've ever been as unstable and like emotionally broken as when I stopped doing MDMA. I did a huge amount of damage, and I talked about going to rehab. Right, my mom sent me to rehab halfway through my junior year of high school, and then shipped me off to live with my uncle. When I went to that rehab, there was a guy in there. I can't remember his name, but he was in there for ecstasy, for MDMA, and he was an interesting case study. I call him that because the way my brain works, I'm always like trying to figure out what drives people. I'm always like trying to figure out like why people do what they do. And it's not a conscious thing. It's just something like that's just how I'm wired. I really like to think about how other people think for some reason. Call me crazy, but I'm getting into this guy's head, and I mean, we're having conversations and we're being vulnerable with each other. He was, bless him, he was being real nice. But man, he was having a really hard time. He expressed this to me. He was telling me how, like, one minute he'd be crying and the next minute he'd be like laughing hysterically. Like his emotion switch, his toggler was completely busted. And I don't think that he stayed that way, right? I think that he was able to repair, but I don't really know, able to repair his brain. But I tell you what, the damage that drugs like that can do, that just completely like have such a large effect on your endorphins, is vast, is wild and scary. Imagine not being able to control your emotions. One second you're just bawling, one second you're hysterically laughing, one second you're super angry, the next you're a zombie, and there's no reason for any of it. There's no stimulus. It's just happening. Scary, terrifying. Like I can't even trust my own mind. Tampa B, man, I can relate with this so much. This is a conversation that I had a lot when I was a kid. What's wrong with you? Are you taking your meds? Oh, I can tell you haven't. Lovely. Yeah, I used to hate when people would say this to me. It's like, yo, I'm not the meds. I am me. You know? Is it really that bad? Like you can't stand to be around me or something? Like what the heck, right? Definitely served to help make me feel broken. I don't think that this is a wonderful conversation to have with your loved ones if they're on medication. I think that there are better ways to ask this question. That there are more loving and kindly ways. I think there are ways that don't make the person feel broken, right? I really appreciate you bringing this up, Tampa B. It seems you have experience with this as well. Something tells me someone has said this to you before, or maybe in your presence, right? This has happened. Definitely some firsthand experience. But yeah, what a travesty. What the heck? I am me. That's right, Tampa. Meep says, I went to rehab 3 times and in the end, I had to do it on my own. I get this story a lot. And relapse is a thing that happens, right? Rehab is a place where we go as addicts, right? These are all parts of the thing, parts of the deal, parts of the journey. But if there's one thing I've learned about all these different things, it's, all of these things are resources and tools that can help. But if we're not ready, if we're not in our heart of hearts, like if we can't make that like strong arm decision, like this is it, right? If we can't just like really put our foot down, it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? We have to want it more than anything. And I think that's part of the reason a really, really hard rock bottom is helpful, right? Or a lot of people say necessary, right? You really need to smack your head into that rock bottom, because otherwise I'm not going to want sobriety bad enough to like, it's hard, right? What we're doing here is difficult, maybe the most difficult thing we've ever done. It's not something that I just started working on one day and then finished, right? It's something I started working on and never stopped, right? Maybe sometimes I put it down and I make mistakes and struggle, but this is something that I'm going to probably work on forever. um so there's something in here that really needs to switch, right? And no amount of tools or assistance, rehab, medication, therapy, no amount of any of that is gonna help you if you're not ready, right? If you're not ready, if you're not done. And that's the craziest thing to like wrap your brain around, right? When I wasn't done, when I heard these words, I thought to myself, well, am I done? I don't know. I would like to be done, I really would like to stop being miserable and stuff. But in my heart of hearts, I wasn't done partying. I still wanted to frolic in the daisies, buck naked. I still wanted to do whatever all the time. I wasn't ready to face my problems. And that's a part of it too, right? And maybe I was conscious of that, maybe I wasn't. But this recovery journey is about facing my demons. Maybe shaking hands with them. Coming to an understanding, right? Something very uncomfortable and unfathomable, maybe at this time. Who knows? But it's not just I'm ready to be done, right? It's like I'm ready to really work hard and like look at what's going on in my life. And that was not an attractive idea to me for the very longest time. It only became attractive to me when not doing so spelled death, when not doing so spelled the end of me. And that's what it took for me. I tell you what, when I was staring down the barrel, and not literally, right? But it felt that way. I definitely felt the walls closing in. Like, look, I'm going to be a crackhead until I die, or I'm going to switch this right now. Like, this is the time. This is the moment. And again, not to discount these resources and these tools, right? Rehab serves a purpose. All of these things that we're talking about, they're very important, but you really have to put everything you got into it. When I joined the wrestling team in high school, they told me you get out of it what you put into it. And what that means is if you work hard, right? If you train and you learn moves and you spar with people, and when we go for our runs, you try your best. You don't like lag at the back with your friends chatting. You'll get good. That's what that means. And I think the same goes for addiction recovery, mental health recovery. You get out of it what you put into it, right? And it can be absolutely maddening, right? It can drive you to madness dealing with this stuff sometimes. But persistence, consistency, and just the will to keep fighting and keep trying are going to spell success. My stomach is speaking to me. I've been getting back into my emo music lately. I've been listening to Saves the Day today. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but I recently discovered the song Nightingale, and I'm such a sucker for songs like that. It's so pretty. Good morning, other restrained. Grandma cooking with the grandma. Hello, hello. Get my words mixed up here, guys. Lucy and Lilac say, it's different for everyone. We are human, and to share will help people find the way or ways that could save their life. Addiction is very hard, but healing can happen. And it will happen if we allow it to, right? We just kind of got to get out of our own way and also put some work in, right? But it will happen. It's inevitable if we put our ducks in a row and we stay at it. It may not be happening in the time frame that I would like it to. It may not be happening very quickly, right? But there is steady progress. Tampa B Man says, oh, I see. Take your meds and you'll realize you weren't in reality. Now you can see clearly you were just unwell again. Bastards are right, but also wrong. It's a slippery slope. I like that word, slippery slope. It's definitely a slippery slope. I mean, they are right in the sense that, like, obviously the medicine does things to us, right? It does something. It does enough that like they can tell the difference when I don't take it. You know, um, it would just be like really nice if they didn't react when they asked that question. Maybe they could be proactive about it and like kindly. They're not wrong, right? But they are wrong. Like in the way, I mean, they're not wrong unless they ask like a jerk, which is generally how it happens. It's generally like they notice and it just comes out of their mouth. Like, oh, this is why we're having such a hard time right now. It's like, okay, sorry, I am the way that I am, I'm doing my best over here. Please be nice. Matrix Rabbit, what's going on? Welcome home. I'm so glad you're home. Tina Marie says, Captain, you have the most amazing support. I definitely do. Between your family and your boat family. And don't discount yourself, Tina Marie. I think that we all have some pretty legit support here on the boat. It's a beautiful time to be getting sober. It really is. I might dare I say one of the best times to get sober. Not only are fentanyl and trank flooding the street drug market, but also we're having all kinds of different ways to connect and different sorts of resources with the advent of technology and the internet and streaming and blah blah blah. I think that we're in a unique position now that we've never really been in before to conquer this thing, right? To really take control of our lives and get back on the horse, baby. We haven't done this yet today. Let's get some ones up for anyone else out there struggling that needs a little extra help, a little love, a little support. I'm sure that there are folks out there probably right this second not speaking up that need a little extra. Brianna Miller, good to see you. Question: do you agree when people say that 95% of people who try and get sober will fail? I've always found that so sad and discouraging. Like, why bother trying? I don't agree with this in theory, also in practice. I don't agree with this because it's strictly because it's discouraging. Right? Why would, even if this is, I don't know what the statistic is, the odds are definitely not in our favor. If you were to look up the actual statistics, whatever they are demoralizing. They are absolutely terrible. But what that actually says is we don't understand addiction. We don't understand mental health, right? Like the numbers wouldn't be so bad if we knew what the heck we were doing, right? If we had an effective method of fixing these things. And there are people that do make it. There are definitely a lot of people that don't. I don't know if 95 is the number, but whatever the number is, I don't think we should be telling fresh, sober people that crap. You know what I mean? Like that's not inspiring. That's just a reservation waiting to happen, right? Whatever the statistics are, I don't think that we quote the bad numbers to people that still have hope in their eyes. You know what I mean? Um, that's all. That's how I feel about that. I totally agree with that last statement. Like, why try bothering? It's totally how I felt when I first heard these numbers too, right? But we're just going to scare people away. Again, our brain wants us to be comfortable and not work hard, right? The easiest way to do so is to continue in our addiction. So we can give it one, two, three. We can give it reasons to do that. Why do that? Why not give it reasons to get sober, right? Why not give our crazy brain reasons to not sit in our sadness, Stomach is not stoked. I ate so much freaking food yesterday. We had like a family contest. We all like weighed ourselves before eating, and like we tried to see who gained the most. I gained a solid 2 pounds. Um, and my cousin, I think, gained like 5.6. I was like, there's no way I'm going to gain that much weight, dude. He's a bigger guy than I am, I have to say. He's definitely a bigger dude. Conchetta Truth Seeker, please don't advertise other people's stuff here. I appreciate you. I appreciate that, but I don't know who that person is. You know what I mean? They didn't pass the sniff test. Sorry. Did I just say try bothering? We should try bothering. We definitely should. It's going to be the best thing that we do. Like literally the best thing ever. If you don't try bothering, it's just going to keep going like it's going. And when I say going like it's going, the nose is pointed down, right? We just keep going, it's going to crash eventually. Scotty says, if I took like 50 suboxone 8 milligram strips, it wouldn't do anything to me, even though I'm clean for years. My buddy think he's going to be hooked on a 4 milligram suboxone for the rest of his life. And you know what, Scotty? If he was, would that be so bad? Would it be better than sticking a needle in his arm? Right? Would it be better than putting the straw and the foil to his lips? I think so. I think that this is harm reduction in full force here, right? Also, fun fact, I think this Suboxone is one of those like less is more kind of things. If you were to take that much, it might do absolutely nothing. But if you were to take like a very, very tiny bit, it might do something. But also the way Suboxone works, it works very differently for people that have had opiate issues, which I never really have. I've taken opiates, but if I were to take a Suboxone strip, it would do something different to me. But honestly, if he has to take a little bit of Suboxone every day for the rest of his life, boo-hoo, bud. You know what I mean? I don't mean to be cold, but and it doesn't really matter if he's intravenous or smoking or whatever the method is, popping pills, right? Regardless, I think taking like a little bit of a Suboxone strip every day is way better than waking up dying, right? Waking up literally dying. You know, I mean, yeah, it's facts, man. It's facts. And our brains are definitely our enemies a lot of the time, especially in early recovery or like when we're looking at recovery as an option. Um, like we'll take any justification we possibly can to just keep doing what we're doing. Like I said, our brain wants us to not work, right? Our brain just wants us to sit in this comfortable space, right, with no adversity. So yeah, We have to find really good reasons. And we really need to stick to our guns too, because when I find my reason today, I might forget tomorrow. I might wake up like not even remembering my righteous indignation, my passion, my drive. I might forget all about it tomorrow. So it's very important to remember what you're fighting for, right? Remember the stakes that are like what's at stake? My entire life, the quality of my life, my mental health. I did squirrel around quite a bit on this episode, but that's quite all right. I think we're still hitting the notes that we want to. Cooking with the grandma says alcohol is my DOC with opiates as my side guy. Lol. So I have had to surrender to all three things: booze, pills, and bipolar. That's quite the concoction you've got there. Cooking with the grandma. Sounds not very dissimilar from me, I have to say. Um, it's interesting. Alcohol and opiates are very similar in a lot of ways. Very different in a lot of ways as well. But I have a lot of my really good friends in recovery are ex heroin addicts or ex opiate addicts. Right. In fact, I would have to say not 100%, but damn near 100% of like my closest recovery friends, they're all heroin addicts. And I don't know, maybe that has to do with my upbringing, right? My history with my parents, because that's what they were doing. But I seem to relate with the dope heads the most. And this is something that I hear from them a lot as well. Like alcohol is something that they convince themselves that they can do, and it's also a depressant. It's similar, but like it's not really lighting the same fire, but it will lead them back, right? Jake used to tell me about this all the time, and we've drank a ton together. But drink always led him back to heroin. And I don't know if it's like that for all of you that indulge in this trifecta here, but it definitely seems to be a common sentiment, right? They're just similar enough to kind of link up. I like that. Other restraint says, I prefer to call it DOO, drug of obligation. We quit choosing long ago. Wow. I just got chills. Just got chills. Maybe it's time for some hot coffee. Warm me back up, huh? This coffee from across the street is straight fire, I have to say. It's got like notes of cocoa and nuts. Um, Something else I can't quite put my finger on. A little confused. Let's stand up for just a second. Hold on. Oh, that's why. Tampa B Man says trauma is what really changed my brain. Didn't know what was so critical in my mental health. Didn't know that was so critical in my mental health. I tell you what, I was listening to have Spotify hooked up to my alarm clock, so I wake up to my favorite songs. It's a new thing I'm trying. My phone asked me if I wanted that, and I was like, yeah, let's try it. I've been trying that for a few days, but so I'll get up listening to my music, and then I'll let it keep playing Spotify. So that happened this morning, and then an ad came on, and this ad was talking about ACEs, which is like trauma. It was talking about trauma and care and like family dynamics, and like it was like the coolest thing ever. Like it was an advertisement for what we do. It was an advertisement for like what we talk about every day. It made me so happy. I don't think I've ever heard an advertisement that made me happy, that like made me excited. I was like, wow, this is good. This is like the change that we want to see, right? I wish I remembered what it was saying, but it was talking about healing trauma, like from your childhood, and like healing trauma in your family and your kids, and like I don't know if it was advertising therapy or like a doctor, but I was so blown away. There we go. I was waiting for Krista Melinda to put that up there. I knew she would. ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences Questionnaire? Question mark? I don't know if it was the questionnaire. I think it was a doctor's office or a therapy or something. That's a measure of different potential traumas or difficulties a person went through. This is exactly what they were talking about. I think that's so cool that this is usually advertising in my head is like the devil. right? I'm thinking like advertising wants me to spend money on stuff that I don't need, right? That's what the whole point of advertising is, like to convince me to spend my money on a product that this company's come up with, right? Well, this advertising was geared to allegedly, at least at first glance, to help me heal my trauma and my family's trauma. Like, wow, what a juxtaposition. Those are the kind of ads I want all the time. If you're listening, AI, quit playing me stupid ads. Play me ads about recovery. Play me ads about adverse childhood experiences, healing trauma in my family. Let's talk about that kind of stuff. Why don't you advertise stuff that I actually care about? That would be really cool. Scotty also says if you're totally clean, kratom will do the same thing as roxycodone or oxymorphone, but it's like a 10% version. It helps people. We have talked about kratom on this channel a lot, and there's definitely people on both sides of that conversation. Some people swear by kratom as like, saving them, helping them. Harm reduction basically replaced their opiate addiction with kratom, which I love. I love harm reduction. I love success stories, right? I don't have a ton of experience with kratom. I've taken it a couple times, but and I've done a couple shows on it as well. The thing that trips me out about this, the drug game in general, right? On the streets, this isn't a street drug, right? You can buy it at the gas station or your smoke shop or whatever, but you can also order it online from a number of companies. The problem I see in general with the drug game today is you can't really trust what you're getting, no matter where you're getting it from, right? Unless you're buying it from, even if you're buying it from a store, I feel like a little nervous sometimes. And the thing with kratom, I think, is the same, right? Like it's being sold as something that it's not being used as. It's being sold as, I think, like a herbal supplement or like a tea, which I guess is kind of what you're using it for, right? But not really. You're using it as a medicine, right? You're using it to medicate yourself. So it's not going through quality check, right? There's like it's being quality checked for something that it's not being used for. So you don't, like, the companies that are making this stuff, you really have to trust because they can really do whatever they want with their product, right? You don't know really exactly. It's not like you're getting the leaves and crushing them up and making your own tea, right? You're not getting it straight from the source. You're getting it heavily processed, which is good. We want it processed. We don't want to do all that extra work, right? That's not my job. That's why these companies exist. But it just takes a lot of trust these days, I feel like, because of the way capitalism and the way that the world has just blown up with the internet and manufacturing, and just like there's so many factors at play now. The internet, it's hard for me to buy stuff. I feel like I need a personal recommendation in order to really get into stuff. And this even goes like with doctors' offices, right? I have a hard time dealing with people in general. I feel like I need a personal recommendation if I'm going to brave that fire because of my experiences. CJ Harris, what's going on? QC is lacking, right? Or it's directed improperly, right? Because it's being misrepresented and misadvertised. But again, I don't want to take away from the people that kratom is helping, is saving, right? Like those stories are abundant, and I don't want to take away from that, right? I don't want to discourage people. But we can be smart about this. We don't have to be silly. We don't have to be, reckless. Arm yourself with knowledge and then make the decisions, right? Then you don't have to then you won't have to worry, right? You've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. I had a couple gummies and they had reverse effect. I was paranoid. Well, that is actually something that happens with high amounts of THC. And fun fact, when you ingest THC through food, like when you eat it versus smoke it, it becomes a different chemical entirely. It's a completely different drug, completely different high. And when I say that, it's very similar, but your body converts it, and what is THC is fat soluble. When you put the lighter to it, it activates it, right? That heat transforms it into something else. When you eat it, you have to put it in the oven at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time to decarboxylate it. I don't really know what that means, but you have to do that in order for it to be like activatable in food. It's kind of like putting the lighter on it, but you're putting it in the oven. Anyways, so eating weed is very vastly different than smoking or vaping weed. Just for the record, guys, I don't want you guys to not know these things. It's Very important. I don't think that either is very dangerous, but when you hear about the like way too high stories, 9 out of 10 times it's eating the weed. It's I don't mean physically eating the flower. That's not going to do anything because it wasn't decarboxylated. You feel me? Um, but yeah, when you have edibles, just have this way of really, really getting people. I have to say, it's a lot easier to ingest way more than you intend to as well because you have to like wait to see what happens, and it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I've had adverse effects from taking NyQuil. One time I took NyQuil and maybe I did twice the dose I should have, or I can't remember what. Like I wasn't trying to get high. I was trying to get well. I was sick, but I remember I took some cough medicine and my walls started melting, which was not fun. You can have adverse reactions to any medication. Our bodies are all so unique and different. We all potentially can have different effects happen to us. Most of them are within like a control group, right? Most of the responses that a medication will have will be similar, but there are always outliers, right? That don't fall into that circle. There's always adverse reactions. Robo, yeah, absolutely not intentional, but that was the first time I'd ever experienced that. I told my dad about it, and he was like, "Yeah, that's called an adverse reaction. Probably did too much." I was like, "I didn't though." Jason P, I was really tired this morning too, man. I think turkey makes us tired, doesn't it? I was so groggy this morning. I thought that I was late for the show, but I was actually early. I crossed my eyes and ended up with two T's. That's funny. Amethyst Fox, hello, hello. I don't think I've ever said hello to you. Good morning. Welcome aboard. Sid Green, hello to you as well. Opiate withdrawal seems to be fairly honest as far as addictions go. I don't like this clean recovery talk, which is fairly recent. What do you mean by that, Sid? What do you mean by clean recovery talk? I'm not sure I understand. And when you say opiate withdrawal seems to be fairly honest, you're personifying a process, right? Withdrawal doesn't speak. So what's honest about opiate withdrawal? I don't understand what you're trying to say. And I'm not coming down on you. I just want to understand what you're saying so we can have a talk about it, you know? So we can converse. Tampa B Man says, I always seem to be the problem, bottom line. It's what keeps me away from people. Am I reading that correctly, Tampa? You know, I feel this way about myself sometimes, but this is a fallacy. There are people that are for me, and there are people that are not for me, right? Um, I don't think everyone has to like me, but I try not to limit my exposure based upon other people's reactions. You know what I mean? I uh, I don't think there's anything wrong with you, Tampa. I think you're just fine. Matrix Rabbit says, "How can you get high on weed? I don't get it." You know, I've heard this from a number of people. Some people it doesn't seem to work for some reason. Also, the first time you smoke, you don't really get high. That doesn't happen to everyone, but it did happen to me. I did not get high the first time I smoked. Tampa B says, Spanx, it happens every time without fail. It is me, not them. When you say it happens every time, I imagine there's a different set of circumstances that's unfolding, but you're feeling like you're the common denominator. But I also feel like that's not fair to yourself to say, whether you're the common denominator or not. Um, I don't think that you could. I mean, you seem very sweet and nice to me. I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing some deeper aspects of Tampa B Man, but I find it hard to believe that you're so terrible to be around, right? I find that really hard to believe. Scotty says, I assume he means that opiates are about the safest drugs you can take if they're dosed out properly. I know a lot of people that do opiates feel this way. I've heard this a lot. And I mean, a lot of people will talk up their drug of choice. You know, I've talked to tweakers that, you know, claim superpowers. You know, they're psychic now. And I'm not trying to say that this person's wrong or anything, but you know, this is definitely not out of sorts at all. You can live 50 years every day, unlike alcohol, where you cannot. Alcohol is a dirty drug. Interesting. Interesting. You know, there are some people that can be functional addicts, right? But I think those people are special, far and few between, right? Regardless of what your DOC is, whether it's clean, honest, whatever it is, dirty. I don't think that you're living the best life you could, you know? And I'm not here to tell you what to do. You get to make your own decisions. You're in charge of your ship. You get to drive your boat, right? Um, and we don't what's the word? Conform to the complete abstinence model on this boat, on this channel, right? We conform to the I don't like the word conform at all. We subscribe to the harm reduction method, right? If you're doing better than you did yesterday, that's all that matters to me, right? I think that complete abstinence probably would serve most of us, maybe all of us better, but like that's not necessarily realistic for a lot of people. And we spend a lot of time talking about perspective, right? Perspective is power. We talk a lot about that kind of stuff on this channel. If your perspective is my drug of choice is safe and clean and honest and you know I could live forever doled out properly, you're not in the right headspace to get clean. You know what I mean? Like this isn't the conversation we should be having at all. So regardless of where you are, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're listening and participating or whatever level you're at, right? um, I think that for people that feel like this, I think that harm reduction is what they need, right? And again, I'm not here to tell you what you need or what you don't or what to do, right? I'm just here to talk about stuff and provide a place that we can converse honestly and safely about these topics, right? That way we flesh things out. This understanding, this lack of understanding that society seems to have, right? Well, we're gonna go ahead and get some understanding ourselves. At the very least, we're gonna be educated, right? Sid Green says it suddenly appeared in literature in the UK as part of a stamp down on maintenance scripts. Heroin withdrawal is not great, but also no real problem. Heroin still prescribed here in UK. Interesting. I didn't know that heroin was still prescribed in the UK, and I find that hard to believe. And also saying that heroin withdrawal is not great, but also no real problem. Heroin withdrawal is life-threatening. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Heroin withdrawal is life-threatening. Change my mind. No real problem. I'm having a hard time relating with you here, Sid. Interesting. Heroin is still prescribed in the UK. This is fact. Curious and curiouser. I see you, Matrix. And I think people could probably see you yesterday too. I think that chat just gets a little crazy sometimes. Laura Lou, hello, hello. Others restrained is also telling me that H is not life-threatening. Dude, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Like if I'm wrong, I'll come on and say it real fast. You feel me? But I watched my mother withdraw off opiates. It certainly looked life-threatening to me. And again, I've been wrong many times in my life, and I'll be the first to admit it. But to say whether or not it's life-threatening, to say that it's no real problem, I think is way, way, way off the mark. No real problem. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. Cooking with the grandma says anything that takes away your soul is life threatening. Thank you for the backup, Cooking. I was getting a little nervous there. I didn't really know what to say. Heroin is not really safe, guys. Like maybe under like controlled conditions, like in a like under certain situations, but heroin is not safe. It is not safe. It's not safe. Like what conversation are we friggin' having? I want to start cussing. I'm starting to get a little riled up. Okay. Hold on one second. Give me just a minute here. I'm gonna pull in the big guns on this one. What is that? That's not what I want. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. A little coffee. You know what's safe? A water slide. You know what's safe, dude? Like sitting in this chair. You know what's not safe is heroin withdrawal. You got to be absolutely kidding me. If you're gonna feel like you're dying, look, I've never withdrawed on heroin. Okay, but hear me now. Why don't you go and try? Why don't you go and try and withdraw on heroin and tell me how safe you feel? Tell me how honest you feel. 100%. If y'all are going to come on here and say this kind of crap, look, and I'm not trying to come down on you. Like, if that's your opinion, that's cool. But this is just not true. And people that are trying to be in recovery hearing this, you think this is going to help? You think that the guy trying to kick heroin wants to hear that it's safe? He probably does want to hear that so that he doesn't have to kick heroin. You feel me? Like, I think this is a little ridiculous. This really, really bothers me. Hey, look, heroin is a respiratory depressant. Heroin isn't it like it can collapse your veins. Like there's literally in like you guys are talking like so for this to be true, you have to be like of sound mind. I'm doing it like in a controlled environment, like we're not even talking about the use part, right? Whether you're smoking it or injecting it, is that safe, right? Is intravenous drug use safe? Is smoking off a foil safe? Okay, let's forget that. Let's forget that. Let's forget the complications that come with that getting infections, right? You need clean needles, right? Let's forget about all of that. Now let's just talk about your brain on drugs. Let's just talk about what happens in here when you're doing heroin or when you're coming off heroin, right? You're replacing what drives you as a human with a substance that you buy, right? What I'm talking about is the reward center of our brain, right? What tells me to have sex, what tells me to fight, what tells me to run, right? What tells me this is good, what tells me don't do that, that's bad. We're replacing that with a synthetic substance, right? So now we're in this spiral, this cycle where what literally drives me to do what I do when I do it is no longer derived from within, it's derived from without, right? I don't think that that's safe. I don't think that that's healthy. And if you do, go ahead, do your thing, right? I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But if that's, I don't think that y'all want to live that life, right? If you did want to live that life, you wouldn't be here in the first place. If you came here to have someone convince you that heroin's not healthy and safe, you came to the right friggin' place because it's not. Like, what are we talking about? We got the drug advocates out today. Somebody call Hunter S. Thompson. He's got something to say. Um, anyways, I don't like getting uppity. I don't like raising my voice and getting like that. But holy crap, what are we talking about? If This is a great point. Tina Marie says if doctors are prescribing it, they're telling their patients it's safe. Well, doctors are prescribing all kinds of stuff that's causing all kinds of issues. I mean, doctors are prescribing lithium for depression, right? And other things. I'm not a doctor, right? I'm not a psychiatrist, but there are all kinds of medications that we're told are safe. I mean, that's the whole Oxycontin story, right? That's the whole Oxy story. This stuff's safe. You can't get addicted. Literal epidemic follows, right? And the Sacklers make billions. You know, misinformation is the death of the addict. Misinformation, misleading information, right? Falsehoods, the lack of facts, conjecture are the deaths of addicts. All right, we need to arm ourselves with facts and knowledge. Like just because a doctor prescribes it does not mean it's safe, right? It might mean that the system and the board, right, the medical board like deems it safe, right? But we all know that OxyContin's not safe, and we all were told that it was. Anyways, rah, rah, rah. I'm gonna get out of here. Hit that like, subscribe, and the bell for notifications if you like what we do here. I invite the naysayers to come back and have a conversation with me again tomorrow. We will be painting. I know I always say I'm going to paint and then I don't. It's hard for me to do scheduling, and I'm sorry if I let you down yesterday and you needed me. I'm really sorry. It was not my intention. But I will be painting today. Maybe we'll do a little extra. I know I said that this one was done. It's not. The clouds can't be pure white, right? The sun's setting. What the heck? So I guess I'm going to go back and paint these clouds off-white, a little bit yellow and pink and stuff, so they look like sunset clouds. It's going to be great. Check us out, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, we'll be on here tomorrow doing our sobriety thing again. Thank you for everybody for being here. Shout out to the crew, the mods. Y'all are the best. Shout out to Scotty and Sid. Thank you for talking with me about that. I really appreciate that. I hope I didn't come across too crass. Regardless of how wild I sound and feel, I really did enjoy that. These are the kind of conversations we need to be having. So, yeah. Much love, everyone. Be good to yourself. You deserve it. This has been Captain Calhoun on the Lifeboat. We'll see you later.